Good evening. It's Wednesday the 12th of November and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Islamabad blast. Suicide explosion outside Islamabad district court kills 12 as forensic investigators probe the area. Political corruption. Ukrainian government suspends Justice Minister German Gushchenko amid corruption investigation. Love baits. 76-year-old Janet Fontaine finally walks down the aisle to marry 81-year-old Cliff after decades of waiting.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Prithika Sivakumar.
Good evening and thank you once again for joining us on World News Tonight on Derana news channel. Pakistan's Interior Minister said that a suicide blast outside Islamabad's district court yesterday killed at least 12 people and wounded dozens. Witnesses described chaotic scenes and bodies near the entrance as police sealed the area. Forensic teams probed this scene and medics tended the injured amid urgent rescue efforts.
Pakistan's Interior Minister confirmed that a suicide blast tore through the entrance of Islamabad's district court yesterday, killing at least 12 people and injuring dozens more. The explosion occurred during peak hours when the courthouse is typically crowded with litigants, lawyers, and staff, amplifying the devastation and chaos. Witnesses describe horrifying scenes as bodies were strewn across the ground and panic swept through the courthouse. Lawyer Rustam Malik said that he saw several victims lying motionless outside the building immediately after the explosion. Police quickly cordoned off the area while medics rushed to treat the injured and transport them to nearby hospitals. Forensic teams have begun probing the blast site to determine the type of explosive used and the identity of the attacker. Authorities are investigating potential motives and security has been tightened around judicial and government buildings nationwide. Officials have pledged to provide regular updates as the investigation continues.
Australia and Indonesia have agreed to sign a new security treaty. Leaders announced in Sydney pledging regular consultation and closer military cooperation if either nation faces threats. The pact, unveiled during President Prabowo Subianto's state visit, is expected to be formally signed in January, bolstering Indo-Pacific stability and regional ties.
Admiral Albo, the Prime Minister, making a stylish arrival at Garden Island to announce a new defence deal with our closest neighbour, and there waiting Indonesia's President Prabowo. His first time here as leader, driven onto our largest ship HMAS Canberra, and then given the bells and whistles treatment, even bagpipes, a personal favourite.
I think your intelligence is very good. You know that I like bagpipes, so I'm received by bagpipe.
The men had spent the day finishing off a new security treaty. If either country is under threat, the other will come to their aid.
This is a watershed moment in the Australia-Indonesia relationship. This treaty represents a major extension of our existing security and defence cooperation.
President Prabowo was a general under Indonesia's former military dictator Suharto. Some in Jakarta are worried he's Suharto 2.0. Right now, he's one of our closest allies.
In the Indonesian culture, we have a saying, when we face an emergency, it is our neighbour that will help us.
And to seal the deal, a fly past by our roulettes.
Officials confirmed that Thailand has suspended its recently signed ceasefire agreement with Cambodia amid rising border tensions. The Thai government said it will clarify its actions with the United States, signaling concern over escalating military patrols and disputes. ASEAN and diplomatic channels are reportedly engaged to prevent further conflict along the border.
Thailand's government confirmed on Tuesday that it will halt the implementation of an enhanced ceasefire agreement with Cambodia, and it said it would explain its decision to Washington. The agreement was signed in the presence of U.S. President Donald Trump last month. Both sides blame each other for starting the exchange of rockets and heavy artillery in July, which killed at least 48 people and temporarily displaced around 300,000 people during their worst fighting in recent history. Tensions between the two Southeast Asian nations have escalated following a landmine blast on Monday that injured 4 Thai soldiers. Thailand's military has accused Cambodia of laying new mines after the two countries agreed on the enhanced ceasefire steps, which included the withdrawal of troops and heavy weapons. Thailand's Defense Minister Natapon Narfanit said the government will also delay the return of 18 Cambodian prisoners of war currently held by its military. He declined to answer a question on whether troops would be redeployed. On Tuesday, Cambodia's defense ministry denied that it had laid new landmines and urged Thailand to avoid patrols in old minefield areas. It also reiterated its commitment to working with Bangkok in line with the October deal.
South Korea under President Lee Jae-myung will co-sponsor the UN resolution condemning North Korea's human rights record, Seoul's foreign ministry said. The move keeps Seoul aligned with prior co-sponsorship despite Lee's outreach to Pyongyang, follows pressure from rights groups and sustains international scrutiny of alleged abuses inside the DPRK.
South Korea is backing the UN General Assembly's resolution condemning North Korea's human rights violations as one of the 41 UN member states. This, according to the resolution document released on Wednesday. South Korea continued to co-sponsor the resolution from 2008 to 2018, but under the Moon Jae-in administration between 2019 and 2022, it withdrew, citing concerns about the impact on inter-Korean relations. Seoul rejoined in 2023 under the previous Yoon Suk-yeol administration. There has been speculation that the Lee Jae-myung government pushing for dialogue with Pyongyang would withdraw. But with Seoul's renewed backing of the resolution, this shows the Lee government is approaching the North Korea human rights issues as a matter of universal values and principles. In fact, one official from the foreign ministry reportedly said the Lee government believes it to be important to bring about real improvements in the human rights of North Korean residents and thus joined the latest resolution as a co-sponsoring country in cooperation with the international community. The U.S., meanwhile, is not among the sponsoring countries as it withdrew from the UN Human Rights Council in February under President Trump. The latest resolution expressed deep concern about the grave human rights violations in the regime, the pervasive culture of impunity, and the lack of accountability for human rights violations and abuses. It also condemned the reclusive state for using resources on military spending and on illegal nuclear weapons and ballistic missile program rather than securing welfare. The resolution will be introduced at the UN's Third Committee before being brought to the General Assembly plenary next month for final adoption. North Korea has strongly opposed the UN's resolutions on its human rights situation, with Pyongyang's foreign ministry spokesperson last year calling it a grave political provocation that violates the regime's sovereignty.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. Ukraine has suspended Justice Minister German Galushenko as part of a corruption investigation in the energy sector. Anti-corruption prosecutors have charged 7 individuals, including Timur Mindich, a close ally of President Zelensky, accused of orchestrating a $100 million scheme. The government vows full transparency amid rising political scrutiny.
Bundles of cash allegedly embezzled from Ukraine's energy sector, the country's anti-corruption agencies busted a high-level criminal network involved in a $100 million corruption scheme. Among them is Ukraine's Justice Minister German Galushenko, also former energy minister, who was suspended after a recorded conversation with him and the suspects was released. He is accused of accepting personal benefits in exchange for control of money flow in the energy sector. The mastermind of this scheme is Timur Mindich, a close ally of President Zelensky, according to the investigators.
Timur Mindich decided to take advantage of the situation in Ukraine, of his friendly relations with the president, and of his connections with senior government officials to enrich himself illegally.
Mindich is believed to have fled the country, but President Zelensky's relationship with him is likely to come under renewed scrutiny. The 15-month investigation into the energy sector led to 5 people being arrested and 7 charged on Tuesday. The government sacked the supervisory board of the nuclear power provider Energoatom, believed by investigators to be a cornerstone of the graft scheme. Prosecutors accuse Energoatom of forcing contractors to pay illegal kickback fees and say several top officials benefited from this. The scandal, which comes at a time of escalating Russian attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, is likely to heap pressure on Volodymyr Zelensky. The president already came under fire earlier this year when he tried to limit the power of Ukraine's anti-corruption bodies, before eventually backing down following mass protests and backlash from the EU.
The U.S. has deployed the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford to Latin America, raising tensions with Venezuela. Washington says the mission targets drug trafficking, but President Maduro called it an attempt to undermine his government. Regional officials and analysts are closely monitoring the military presence amid escalating diplomatic friction.
It's over 330 meters in length, with 4,500 sailors on board. The world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, is the latest arrival in the Caribbean. A U.S. naval build-up off the coast of Venezuela is raising tensions in the region. The Trump administration says it's preparing for an anti-drug offensive, deploying warships, submarines and fighter jets near the Venezuelan coast. With heavy U.S. military presence at its shores, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro signed a defense law on Tuesday calling for military readiness.
If we, as a republic, as a people, have to take up arms to defend this sacred legacy of our liberators, we are ready to win.
Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino claims to have rallied 200,000 armed forces to participate in military exercises to counter what he calls imperial threats. Meanwhile, neighbor Colombia also denounced Donald Trump's military buildup in the region, calling for an investigation into Trump's war crimes, which it says has affected citizens of Venezuela, Ecuador, Colombia, and Trinidad and Tobago. Its president, Gustavo Petro, ordered his security forces to stop sharing intelligence with the US until US strikes on suspected drug traffickers cease.
All levels of law enforcement intelligence are ordered to suspend all communications and other dealings with US security agencies.
Since September, US forces have targeted about 20 vessels in international waters, killing over 75 people, according to US figures. Trump recently downplayed the prospect of going to war with Venezuela, yet has warned that President Maduro's days are numbered.
UN Women warned women's bodies are becoming crime scenes in Al-Fashir after the RSF captured the city, with survivors reporting killings, systematic rape and missing children. Tens of thousands have fled. Rights experts and prosecutors are collecting evidence and urgently investigating mass atrocities and sexual violence for ongoing international investigations.
Women's bodies have been turned into crime scenes in Sudan as those fleeing Al-Fashir recount experiences of rape, violence and famine. That's according to the United Nations Agency for Women on Tuesday.
Women's bodies, ladies and gentlemen, have just become a crime scene in Sudan. There are no safe spaces that are left, nowhere for women to gather safely, to seek protection, or even access even the most basic psychosocial care.
This story contains graphic images and descriptions of violence. Al-Fashir's fall on October 26 has cemented the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF's, control of the Darfur region in its 2.5-year war with the Sudanese army. Videos of soldiers killing civilians on the outskirts of the city and reports of attacks on those escaping have raised international alarm. And evidence is mounting that rape is being deliberately and systematically used as a weapon of war, according to Anna Mutavati, the UN Women Regional Director for East and Southern Africa.
Field reports describe women foraging for wild leaves and berries to boil into soup. While doing this, they face additional risks of violence, including abduction and sexual and gender-based violence.
Around 11 million women and girls are facing acute food insecurity in famine-struck Darfur. About 82,000 people have fled al-Fasher and surrounding areas since October 26, according to the UN. As many as 200,000 people may still be trapped inside the city, according to estimates of its population, towards the end of the 18-month siege. The UN human rights chief said last week he feared summary executions, rape and ethnically motivated violence are continuing in al-Fasher.
A Turkish C-130 military cargo plane crashed in Georgia's Sinagi region after departing Ganja, Azerbaijan, killing all 20 personnel aboard, Turkey's defense ministry said. Georgian and Turkish teams are investigating the wreckage near the Azerbaijan border and will coordinate research, recovery, and an inquiry into the cause and provide updates.
A Turkish military airplane carrying at least 20 people crashed in Georgia on Tuesday after departing from Azerbaijan. Authorities reported casualties, though the exact number was unclear, and the cause of the crash was not immediately known. Turkey's defense ministry said 20 Turkish personnel were on board the C-130 cargo plane, including the flight crew, but provided no additional details on possible passengers of other nationalities. President Tayyip Erdogan interrupted the speech in Ankara to offer condolences.
God willing, we will overcome this crash with minimum hardships. May God rest the soul of our martyrs and let us be with them through our prayers.
The C-130 Hercules is a cargo, troop, and equipment carrier aircraft that can make use of unprepared runways for takeoffs and landings. Its versatile airframe has enabled it to be used for other purposes as well, including as a gunship and for airborne assault and reconnaissance operations. U.S. firm Lockheed Martin, which makes the C-130 Hercules that is widely used by air forces around the world, did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. Janet Fontaine has married for the first time after meeting 81-year-old Cliff on Match.com. With help from relationship coach Gina Goodat, she created a profile after retiring and began a long-distance romance in 2021. The couple married, fulfilling her lifelong dream today.
Here comes the blushing bride. And can you believe, at age 76, this is Janet Fontaine's first walk down the aisle. That's right, after all these years of being a single gal, Janet is finally getting married. Waiting at the altar is her 81-year-old groom, Cliff.
I did have people say to me, why do you want to get married? And it's my dream.
Sure enough, she met Mr. Right on Match.com. It began as a long-distance romance. Cliff Fontaine, a widower, lived in Phoenix. Janet lived outside Seattle. After 3.5 years, he got down on bended knee. Well, sorta. Not with that creaky knee of his.
I looked at her one day over coffee and I said, well, when would you like to go look at rings?
Janet's friends threw her a bachelorette party, and yes, she got lingerie. Finally, the big day. Cliff made his way down the aisle first. Janet's nieces were the bridesmaids, her sister the matron of honor. And finally, there she was. After the vows, cheers, and of course, smooches. And just like any other newlywed, they fed each other cake at the reception. And there was the first dance.
Ron Gibbons, a World War II Navy veteran, still works 3 days a week in the Lowe's Garden Center in Ulster, New York. Employed there roughly 17 years after careers at General Electric and IBM, Gibbons says staying active keeps him sharp and brings joy to customers and co-workers.
At 98 years old, service never really ended for Navy veteran Ron Gibbons.
Well, they say you've been here 17 years. I said, yeah, they're going to keep me here till I do it right, so.
Customers call him Mr. Ron. Most days you can find him working in the lawn and garden department at Lowe's in Ulster, New York.
The moms are out now. Dads will be in later, but
After serving his country and 35 years with IBM, Gibbons couldn't sit still for long.
If you don't work when you retire, you're going to just rust.
Gibbons was drafted at just 18 years old. He remembers that time fondly, the camaraderie and the heartache.
I lost 2 friends and 2 of my buddies I grew up with and my uncle. It means a lot.
On this Veterans Day, he honors those who served beside him. And his colleagues found time to honor him too.
God bless you. You're working for the best and greatest country in the world.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Prithika Sivakumar, and we'll leave you tonight with the visuals of Team Lab's Kyoto Museum expanding boundaries of perception. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Thank you for watching World News Tonight on Derana News channel. Have a very good night.